waking up today, we get the news from Jamie Dimon, the CEO over at JP Morgan. What does he say? That the banking crisis is not over. The repercussions will be for years to come. I mean, this is actually probably some of the worst news that you would want to hear out there. It's worth mentioning that JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley have had pretty big expectations of testing at least 52-week lows for Q1 or Q2. This was their projections, not mine. You can go research it for yourself. We've talked about it here for quite a while. Just so you can know, and this link will be down below so you can read about this. But this was the biggest news on the day, and we kind of saw this come out early in the morning. As well on the calendar, what happened there? Today we had Jolt job openings, and then we also had what came out here with factory orders being down, and then we had consumer durables as well. Okay, now beyond that point, where was the pain? Now today specifically, we saw a lot of pain in a specific sector of the market, XLI, the industrial sector. And you don't usually see a lot of volatility here. Names like Caterpillar, Boeing, John Deere, okay, along that list, right? Getting smacked. Now, I will say also too, transparency's sake, I ended up closing my Caterpillar position. I didn't have any options. I had stock. We had a nice push from, I believe, like 228 up to 235, and then we dropped right back down, and so it hit my stop. So my target was 241. It was a 2-3 hour trade there, but I had to stop out, and I lost about $240. I'll post it later. Pretty small, but either way, transparency. I'll have that when it updates to TradeZella. We'll go over here and go over what happened there. But that's where this pain's coming in, giving you a visual names that happened here. Caterpillar, boom, 229. The news just nuked them down to 216, right? Boeing, right? Boeing been performing great, right? But it wasn't even able to hide from the pain. You dropped from, yesterday's close 215 down to lows of 209. Not as aggressive, but still pain. John Deere, a little bit, pretty steep as well. 415 yesterday's close. You're ending today around 397. You don't see these big of moves typically on these type of names, okay? That's where a lot of the pain was felt. As well, we got double whammied by JP Morgan's, Dimon saying what he said, going into XLF. Where do we see there? We saw some recovery happening, followed by some downside on the day. That's where a lot of the pain came. But we have some other things we need to be talking about. And I believe things that could be a very bullish catalyst and the reason why we started running the beginning of today. Before we get into that content, I have to ask you to do two things. Consider liking, consider subscribing. Every day here on the channel, I go over what's happening with the market, my expectations, and everything in between, and my overall trades, win, lose, draw. Like it in the beginning, I'm going to tell you if I lose. Lost $250 in that trade, right? It is what it is. Going into Instagram as well, the link is down below. I do a lot of my short form content on here, me or Jay Ream. We're going to be introducing more educational short form stuff here, trade ideas and everything in between as well. We mentioned Oxy here. We mentioned DWAC. We mentioned a lot of things here. So make sure you're checking this out. We're just now really feeding these out there. So check that out as well. And you might actually get some fundamental things like the petrodollar, what was happening here, and other things along those lines on the Instagram. There will be a pretty big giveaway because we reached 45K subscribers. We'll be giving away a 32-inch monitor, some cash, and 1 year to the Discord to one random follower. We'll have the details on there this week or this weekend coming up, so make sure you're checking it out. Now, let's get back in here. So when we look at what happened on the day, look at Nasdaq. I want to take a step back. We want to look at indexes. Why do we look at indexes? Because indexes give us the answers, okay? Indexes tell us the actual story. Now, when I look at indexes, again, I look at this and I say, it could be worse. Again, fundamentally, technically, we are disconnected, okay? Fundamentally, I remain very bearish. I agree with Jamie Dimon. I think there's a lot of big issues out there. I don't think they're solved in 2-3 weeks, okay? I don't think that's how the financial system works, okay? I believe that. But when I look at the technicals in the short term, I have to look at it unbiased. Okay. And when I look at this from an unbiased viewpoint, I say to myself, it could be worse. It's not bad. It's actually bullish, right? Why? Well, you continue to do the same thing. And I have to force you to zoom out, and I'm going to get rid of all these levels so you can just see more clearly. You're doing the same thing. Higher highs, higher lows. Now, granted, maybe you're coming into like a wedge, and I know that's going to be the argument here. I know that's what everyone's going to say is like, oh, well, Tyler, well, now you're wedging. Now we have a wedge. And maybe you do, right? But when we look at what's happening structurally, until you break down out of this, until you validate it, right? There's no reason to be panicking for me, okay? Despite all that pain that we had in those two sectors, the Nasdaq remained resilient. Okay, so when we go to something like the 15-minute, you get a really good visual of what's happening here. And when we look at that movement, you can see, you do drop from, pre-market highs around 13.35, right? Made new local highs. Market starts about right here, 8:30. You open up around basically 13.28. End of the day, you're only down 50 points. I don't care what you say. It's a 50-point day during trading hours, okay? Now, when we take it a step further, you're still making a higher low. I mean, this is the next step of what we have to look at, right? That's your previous low, higher low. Okay, the same trend. You're forming out here: higher low, higher low, higher low, higher high, higher high, higher high, over and over and over. So again, from a technical standpoint, you can't be siding with this thesis. Now, I know also you're going to come to the statement of, well, Tyler, this is a trap. This is a bull trap, actually. Yesterday's video was titled Bear Trap, and you're saying today, this is a bull trap. Now, I want to take a step further in looking at what's happening, but before we do that, let's take a quick look at ES, the S&P futures, arguably the area that got probably hit harder than Nasdaq, because Nasdaq, as we look into equities, you're going to see equities remained, again, very resilient. And we look here at the Nasdaq, and when we look at ES, SPY futures, you end the day with almost a double bottom here, right? Better than a double bottom because you make a higher low, okay? And now at the end of the day, you're coming back into that level. And if you break above 41.36, you're confirmed with the double bottom here, and you're probably projected to push right back up into the supply zone. And this leads me to my next point. What do we expect to happen when we hit our targets, right? We've been talking about this. Right? We've mentioned it here. Go watch back on the other videos. We don't delete the videos, so you can go back and track them. So you can make sure we're not full of it. We're not lying to you. We're transparent, right? If we're wrong here on the channel. We zoom out, go really quick to the daily time frame. Where are we coming into? Boom. Supply level. The same level from February highs. That's what we're coming into. Well, shocker. Where's that next level at? Where does this also stem from? Those same highs that we had all the way back here in August 26th of this year. We're coming into a major inflection point, a major resistance, right? That's what we have to look at. But what about the index that's leading us? Again, going back into the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq has broken August highs. You're pushing into September highs now. You're pushing in, you're pushing back up, okay? Sorry, you broke September highs. You're pushing into August highs now, okay? ES, you just broke September, and now you're pushing into the previous August highs as well. So that's where you're at. Okay, and again, not manipulating charts, just going over what we're looking at here. Dow, again, Dow's definitely the one that got the bad end of it today. But again, from a daily, longer term chart, as we zoom out, what happened? We hit this level, almost at 34,000. That's our real level right there. And then we shot down. But we're not really making lower levels, lower lows. So I ask you, when we look at this, is it actually concerning? I ask you, is this actually bearish behavior, right? Because you have to look at it from both viewpoints, the short term and the longer aspect. And when I look at it from a longer aspect, I can't help but still like what I'm looking at here. Now, also going into this, because I know people are saying, well, this is a trap. This was a trap to the upside, and you just sold back down. Well, let's humor that argument, right? I like to look at every argument here. So first of all, I would not argue that this looks like a bear trap yet. I would not say that here on ES. But what about volume on SPY today? Your average 30-day volume on the S&P 500 has been around 100, and I believe I have TOS open here. Let me see. It's around 105 million. You came out at almost 50% of that today. Yes, let me zoom in on that so you can get your vision clear. I know we got some boomers that follow the channel. And boomers, I love you, right? You're like father figures to me, right? Except you didn't raise me or buy me anything really cool growing up or teach me how to play sports. You're just that really cool old guy that, you know, I like. So I like and I love you guys. No disrespect. But again, you look here, you're at 65 million. Lackluster, people. Lackluster. What's happening the past 2 days? We would argue that yesterday, in my opinion, was consolidation on the downside. Today, similar behavior, weak selling, some of our lowest volume days. What did we get on the breakout to the upside when we broke above 13,000? Another high volume day. Right? I don't find this coincidental. You don't need to have crazy volume to move in a direction, but I believe volume can be very confirming of a thesis, right? It can give you that confirmation that you may need. And when I look at this, that's my opinion here. Okay, that's my opinion when I look at exactly what's happening here. I like what I'm seeing. It's still standing with my thesis. I'm still confident what I'm looking at. And when I get to the equities, I think you're going to agree with me. So let's dive into those. Now, really quick before we do that, let's look at some of what's happening here on the options chain. We're going to go to Bookmap as well. Now, options chain SPY. Again, you're seeing all these blocks come in, but they're very dated. They're deep. You know, these are most likely hedges. Okay. They're people selling them too, right? These are not the interesting aspect of it. We are more interested in these shorter dated contracts, like May 19th, kind of interesting. April 21st, more interesting, right? That's a more interesting play, but it's an in the money play as well, 435, right? You're not seeing aggressive out of the money plays happening here anymore. That's why I recommend you go look at that chain as well, right? So SPY, I'm not going to say it's not necessarily bearish or setting up potentially to be bearish. However, when we look at where these options are, they don't cause me to be too concerned yet. Qs. Again, very similar. I mean, very, very mixed here, to be honest. We look at what's happening, right? Very, very mixed. Okay, I will say that. We've seen the bearish flow. I am not biased. I mean, people, I'm trying to be like, I don't know how to say it. When I'm bearish, I'm bearish. When I'm bullish, I'm bullish. And when I look right now, I don't see anything to show me this downside outlook, specifically in the options chain. Okay. The one area of concern I do have is the IWM, which I'll go into here in a second. And the IWM, I didn't even see the flow today, but I already figured it'd be kind of terrible. So you have some dated, but you also have short positions here as well, which I'll go into here in a sec. SPX, I'm not super concerned, but you're seeing it's going both ways. And then going into VIX as well, which VIX should be up on the call side, I would imagine. Not too much, but it's kind of interesting. We're going to go over that here in a second. IWM is what we need to be talking about here in a sec as well. But looking at Bookmap, and look, this is where I got really interested today in Discord. Okay, so this is ES Futures, right? This is ES Futures, and we're looking at the heat map and what's happening here. It's basically level 2 data just right in front of you. That's all it is, okay? I'm at level 2 data, but you can see it. The link is down below if you want to check them out and see how much it costs or, you know, the discount code, whatever. I don't care. Don't care. But when we look here, we get a good visual. We flatline basically all morning. We get and the blue line represents iceberg orders. Okay, that's like dark pool data, dark pool orders coming in. It's when it goes up, that means that someone's buying. When it goes down, that means someone's selling, getting a short position. It just flatlines for most of the day. Now you get a seller coming in around like 1 o'clock, 12:30 ish Central Time. 700 lots, bigger position, but then it goes back to flatline. Nothing. Just all day, nothing. Then you kind of get looks like a heartbeat here going back and forth, right? Typically you want to see bigger, which you get here at the end of the day. But this right here is more chop, not super interested, not decisive. Typically it's in one direction of where big money's buying, right? So there was nothing really happening here. And then end of the day, right? We start to see that pop on indexes. We see the Nasdaq bounce back 30 points at the end of the day. Like almost actually 50, I'm sorry. It went from like 13.18 to 13.25, I believe. So it was a big move. Then we had ES bounce. Then we had Dow bounce, right? And we look here and we start to get a little glimpse of why. We saw iceberg, CVD, looking at volume, overall buyers in the market at the end of the day, turning back in the favor of the bulls, right? That's what we want to see. That's what you're looking for out there, right? Now, again, that's what I was telling people. If you're in Discord and they're like, Tyler, I didn't really see that many trades today. Guys, today's one of those days you don't want to trade. And when we get back to this chart, I want you to really take a look at what you're trying to trade. If we look here like at a 5-minute chart, looking at what you're trying to scalp, you know, from lunch highs, noon, you go to 13.24. Lows, 1317. That's a 70-point range you're trying to trade for the next 3 hours. That is brutal. There's not much money you're going to make there. Okay. That's not my focus. I do not care. I am not going to eat crumbs. That's not the name of my game, right? I'm not, a bottom feed scalper, which again, if that's your thing, go for it. I'm rooting you on. You can make money that way. That's too stressful for me. That's not what I want to focus on. I don't want to, potentially set myself up for failure. Okay. End of the day, what happens? You just wipe all that out in a matter of, 15 minutes, just straight up to the upside again. So what this tells me here is that one, sellers are not strong. Sellers are not following through because you should have made a lower low today. You had every reason to push down lower today. Okay. You had that reason. And then three, the one thing I will say is that buyers also aren't showing up right now. Okay. So I will say, in an unbiased viewpoint, that you need to see buyers actually step back in. You're going to need a little bit of volume and a little bit of pick me up to get us back over this hump. But what I will say is it makes sense where we're finding turbulence when we get back to the ES. It makes logical sense as you come into this major level back from August, just like how we came into it here on the Nasdaq. Okay. Very similar levels, very similar timeframes. Okay. So understand that. Now, I'm going to get us out of here quick. Bear with me. Let's look at these equities. Number one, my favorite one. I have two favorites. I have this one right here and my next one. So Amazon, I still love it. If we look at Amazon, this is, thing of beauty. I want to go to the 4 hour really quick. Now, again, you're going to say, Tyler, it looks like an ascending wedge. And I will say, actually, Amazon looks more like an ascending wedge than any other stock probably out there. I will 100% agree with you. It does. However, until we validate this structure, I'm going to continue to ride my Amazon into the sunset. Because right now, Amazon has been and is performing one of the best names in the market as we speak. Holding its level throughout all the pain today, Amazon continued to make a new high on the week and basically going all the way back since February 3rd. So we get a better look and we go to something like the 5 minute. We look at what's happened here. You just grind to the upside all day long. That's again why I keep saying I'd rather have shares for most of my positions right now. Go in heavy if I have to. I don't care. I have my position right now on Amazon. I'm looking at it. It's almost $21,000. My position on AMD, the next stock we're going to look at, almost $20,000 now. I'm fine with that. Totally fine. Every 1% is about $200. I'm risking way less than I am when it comes to, risking what I am with options, right? Able to sit in my position, able to ride this out, right? We start to make a lower low on Nasdaq. I get out of my position. I cut it. It is what it is. Understand that. That's the strategy here. Home Depot, I've started cutting that entire position. I have a little bit left, some runners, but we hit our level. We hit $300. The end. Gazpacho. We did that. Move on to the next one, right? That's what we're looking at. So looking here, target remains the same. Nothing changes for me personally. We go back into this, then we bring it up to 200 SMA. You can see, let me zoom out right up here, about 107, 107.5. That's my level. That's my target. That's where I want to start trimming Amazon. To be realistic, though, I'll probably start trimming when we hit 106 just because I have a lot in it. And I'm already up a few $100. So I'm sitting pretty good there. Next one, obviously, AMD. Beautiful. My favorite. And it's only my favorite based on opportunity base now. And as we look at AMD, you're coming into this pennant. It's beautiful. You're right at the end of it. Okay. You're still making higher lows. You're making lower highs, really squeezing it out. If we can get some follow through on the Nasdaq, I believe personally that AMD will move. I believe you'll make that move towards 100. And ultimately, if we can mount 100, we're aiming for 103, the 104 region, or we're aiming kind of high there. So that's what we're looking at there. I love AMD. I've been averaging into this position via stock. So I'm sitting out 200 shares on AMD, 200 on Amazon. And basically, there's no risk on either right now just because of where I'm at in profits, specifically on Amazon, and then AMD is like a little bit underneath break even. So I like those positions. Those are my favorite right now. Now, there's some other good names out here. So I don't want to throw any shade or say anything like that. There's some really good names out here. And when we look at these, you're going to see the strength of the market. Like Meta. Meta has been a beast, okay? Meta has been you blew out the targets, right? You just went crazy, right? So we look at where we're at, and you're just pushing up, okay? You're just making new highs. Look at the chart, right? Despite the pain on what happened with the Nasdaq today, Meta continues to make new highs. This has to make you think, what would actually happen if we didn't have an entire sector of the market getting waylaid? We would be thriving. And this is the hard part of being able to disconnect what you're looking at and understanding what's actually moving the market out there. Okay, that's not to say that things aren't important. That's not to say that the chart on Nasdaq isn't important. But you have to take a step back and actually look at what equities are doing. Okay, that's a very fundamental part of what we're looking at here. And so that's what I love to see here is these equities still look great. Nvidia, a little bit of a pullback near the end of the day, right? But beginning of the day, still made new highs almost, 280. A little bit of a retracement. Still looks great. Still very strong. This is what you want to see. All the pain on SPY today. What about Apple? What happened here? Again, an absolute monster. You get a little bit of a pullback. I mean, honestly, it looks like you're just bull flagging to the 2 hour 90 MA. But still, you look incredible. You look very strong. But I will say on Apple, just so you know, there's a pretty big trend going on here. So you know. So these are all all the big levels. But again, I can get rid of all that. You can clearly see that this is going on here as well. One sec, let me throw this on here for you. You can see right there. This is like a monster level. So you can see this is huge resistance you're coming into. If you break out of this, I mean, you have some high expectations going into Apple. So anyways, but overall, can you see the trend? Even though the Nasdaq dropped 140 points from pre-market, equities, tech specifically, is continuing the run, holding its strength despite indexes telling them to turn around. That's what I like about this. And so when I look at this, I have to stay with my thesis and where I'm at personally. If you have comments, comment down below. I would love to answer them. Discord link, actually Discord's full right now. There's no spots available. We also do have educational videos. There'll be one popping up right now. So make sure you check that out if you are interested. Have a good one, traders.